Time now to check out the latest earnings trends with Zacks Research Director Shiraz Mian. Well, we're into another earnings season, Q2 as a matter of fact. That's why we invited our Research Director Shiraz Mian here again to kind of help us wade through what's going on. Now, it's still kind of early in the earnings season. This week is going to be a full week with reports that are coming out, but not too early to outline the main themes of the earnings season. What do you think they are?
Yes, you're right. I mean, it's we have about 55 companies reported until yesterday. This is the first full week of earnings reports, and then the next 2 weeks we will essentially get the bulk of it. So what is reported till now and what's coming up, I see three main themes emerging, and that kind of stand out to me. Number one, which is the most prominent one, is this seeming decoupling between the corporate profitability and the broader economy, particularly the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy, as you know, has been slowing. The first half has been particularly soft, but the earnings reports that have come out and the expectations for the remainder of earnings remains as strong as we saw in the first quarter. So that's the first theme. The second is this constant concern that we've been hearing from the street about corporate margins. As you would recall, margins has been the key driver for earnings thus far in this cycle. And we are starting to see margins roll over to some extent. There's still some expansion on a year-over-year basis, but when you look at them in a number of sectors, you see margins either topping out or even going down a bit on a sequential basis. And the third, related to the margin issue, is the top lines. As margins move behind, revenue gains are becoming as the key driver for earnings growth, and we have seen that in the reports that have come out, and also with the expectations for the remainder of earnings.
Let's talk about margins a little bit more. What do you see as the outlook for margins going forward?
On a year-over-year basis, when we look at the aggregate for the S&P 500, including finance, we see aggregate margins down from the second quarter of 2010. But finance is a little bit unusual, particularly Bank of America had a big write-down. There's a question whether we should consider those as recurring earnings or non-recurring. But excluding Bank of America and finance, or adjusting for that, we see some expansion on a year-over-year basis, but significantly lower expansion in margins than we have seen in the preceding quarters. On a sequential basis, though, we are essentially flattening out. In fact, 8 of the 16 Zacks sectors see margins either flat or down on a sequential basis. So we are seeing margins essentially at the top, and that's been a concern in the market out there for quite some time.
Goes to sustainability of growth.
It does. So you had these input cost pressures that we had been seeing for the last many quarters in a number of these industries. Those are adding to the cost pressures. And then there is this cyclical component to margins as well. As you would recall, we have discussed margins here before, and we have pointed out that margins in the last quarter, as well as the one before that, have essentially reached the prior cyclical peaks. So we are at levels that we haven't really seen before. So it would not be unusual for margins to really stabilize or top out at these levels, and we are seeing some evidence of that. In fact, some of the key growth sectors, like even technology and consumer discretionary, we are seeing margin erosion there.
All right, quickly, because we don't have a lot of time left, give me some of the key standout performing sectors.
The leaders are still the same: basic materials, industrials. Energy is a new standout, and it's no surprise. In fact, some of the major estimate revision trend on the positive side was driven by energy. Most of the positive earnings revisions came from the energy sector.
Okay, we will check in with you as the season progresses. In the meantime, if you want to read more of Shiraz's comments on this earnings season, where can you find them? Well, on a daily basis through the season, you can find him in the Ahead of Wall Street section of Zacks.com. You just go right to our homepage, Zacks.com, and you'll see that section amply set apart from the other material that's on the website, ahead of Wall Street. And you'll get his daily comments on what's happening that day in particular during this earnings season. I'm sure you'll find them interesting and informative. With Shiraz Mian, I'm Terry Ruffalo.